Well, the Prime Minister will meet her backbench MPs this afternoon to address their concerns over her Brexit plans. Her appearance at the meeting of the 1922 committee comes after she suggested she could agree to an extension of the transition period. Let's go to our political correspondent Ben Wright, who is in Westminster for us right now. Ben.
Hello, Simon. Prime Minister's question time is over. Theresa May faced hardly any questions about Brexit during that session. I think it will be different this evening when, as you say, she does meet Tory backbenchers at the 1922 committee. An MP who will be there is Jacob Rees Mogg, of course, leading Brexiteer, head of the ERG group in Parliament, among Tory MPs. What do you hope that Theresa May will be saying to you when she comes later on to your meeting?
Well, what I hope the Prime Minister will do is reiterate the commitments made in the Conservative Party manifesto and in her Lancaster House speech that set out her basis for leaving the European Union, rather than the Chequers deal, which doesn't meet those commitments.
Do you feel that she is in a perilous position now?
No, I don't think there is a great mood to change the leader of the party, but there is a strong feeling that the policy isn't working, and that's coming from all wings of the party. Both pro-Europeans and Eurosceptics feel that the Chequers proposals do not work.
There have been rumours within Westminster for weeks that the chairman of the 1922 could be close to receiving the required number of letters, 48, to trigger a vote of no confidence and then a leadership contest. What would you say to your fellow Tory MPs thinking about doing that?
Well, people must always think very carefully that the Tory party does best when it is loyal, when it is supportive, and when it has confidence in the leadership. And it's not a frivolous matter, it's not a matter to be taken lightly, and we're at a very important stage in the negotiations.
You are most exercised, I think, about the idea of extending the transition period at the moment. After PMQs, the Prime Minister's spokesman said an indefinite transition period was simply not going to happen. It's not on the agenda. Is there anything that can be said to you to get you to swing behind the deal that seems to be forming at the moment in Brussels?
Well, I'm afraid the Prime Minister's spokesman keeps on answering a different question. So, is there going to be an indefinite period within the customs union as the backstop? That question has not been answered, and speaking to cabinet ministers, they give the impression that there is no end date on the customs union proposal as a backstop and no unilateral ability for the UK to withdraw. So they try and elide this into an extension of the transition, which is in fact a different question. I asked the Prime Minister today about the jurisdiction of the European Court, and she essentially gave an answer to a rather different question. So we've got to be very precise on the questions that we're asking.
And you are willing still to entertain an outcome that would mean no deal at all?
Well, leaving on World Trade Organization terms is a perfectly reasonable deal. We would keep £39 billion of taxpayers' money, and that money could be used to ensure that any difficulties that arose could be paid for. Any people who had difficulties because of leaving without an agreement could have the issues eased for them with that very, very substantial amount of money. So yes, leaving without a deal at least is clear. We could trade with the EU on WTO terms, and that would get us the advantage of Brexit sooner.
And you're not at all concerned about the fact that yesterday the Cabinet was discussing, in a very charged meeting, how to get medicine and food into the UK if there is no deal, because of chaos that people anticipate happening in Calais, because France has to then implement different customs arrangements.
This is the wrong way around. Goods coming into the UK will be under the control of the UK government. We will be able to decide how we police our borders.
But in France, they would have to enforce the EU's customs rules.
But you're confusing outward and inbound traffic. Inbound traffic would be subject to UK law, and we could ensure that all the lorries coming into the UK came through on the same basis, and we could cut tariffs to the rest of the world, lowering the price of food, clothing and footwear to help the least well off in our society the most. This is a really exciting opportunity, and we should make sure that there are provisions in place that we can keep our borders open, which is our own authority, and then the EU will have to decide whether it obeys WTO rules in its trade with us.
Just finally, the President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, tweeted this morning that the question now of the Irish border was 100% the fault of the Brexiteers. You put this on the agenda, nobody else.
It's simply not true. The backstop, the Irish border, is not a question raised by the Brexiteers. It's a question raised by the European Union. It's humbug of the highest order, and he knows it is. I think he's having a joke. He has these little jokes. Do you remember he did that funny little Instagram picture, rather rudely about the Prime Minister? It's an obscure sense of humour that he's got.
Jacob Rees Mogg, many thanks. As I said, Simon, Jacob Rees Mogg will be joining his fellow Tory MPs when they meet the Prime Minister later this afternoon.
Ben, talk to you later. Thank you very much, Ben Wright there.